You know what breaks my heart more than anything? Seeing a child cry and feeling completely helpless. But sometimes, in the most unexpected moments, heroes emerge from the shadows. This is the story of Marcus, an 8-year-old boy whose tears on a cold December evening would change not just his life, but the life of someone who thought she had lost everything. It was December 15th, 2023, in downtown Sacramento, California. The holiday lights twinkled mockingly as Marcus stood frozen in front of Thompson's toy store, his small hands pressed against the cold glass window. Inside, a red bicycle with silver streamers sat displayed like a treasure he could never reach. His breath fogged the window as silent tears rolled down his cheeks. Marcus had been saving every penny for months, collecting cans, doing small chores for neighbors, dreaming of surprising his little sister Emma for Christmas. Emma, who had been confined to a wheelchair since the accident 6 months ago, had mentioned that red bike every single day since seeing it in the store window. She didn't know it was impossible for her to ride anymore, and Marcus couldn't bear to tell her. The store had closed early that evening, and Marcus realized he was $50 short. $50 that might as well have been $50,000 to a boy whose single mother worked 3 jobs just to keep food on the table. As the December wind cut through his thin jacket, Marcus didn't notice the black SUV that had pulled up across the street. He didn't see the woman inside watching him through tinted windows, her own eyes filling with tears as she recognized something familiar in his posture, something that reminded her of her own childhood struggles. Ronda Rousey had been driving aimlessly through Sacramento for hours. 3 months had passed since her devastating loss in what everyone said would be her final fight. The media had been brutal, calling her washed up, finished, a has-been who should have retired years ago. Sponsors had dropped her, endorsement deals vanished, and the woman who once stood on top of the world now felt like she was drowning in her own failures. She had been contemplating driving straight out of California, leaving everything behind when she spotted the small figure hunched against the store window. Something about the boy's defeated posture made her pull over. Rhonda sat in her car for several minutes watching Marcus. She saw him pull crumpled dollar bills from his pocket, counting them over and over, as if hoping the numbers would magically change. She watched him wipe his nose with his sleeve and press his face against the glass one more time, before turning to walk away. That's when Rhonda made a decision that would change everything. She stepped out of her SUV, her boots clicking against the wet pavement. Marcus was halfway down the block when he heard footsteps behind him. He turned around to see a woman approaching, someone who looked vaguely familiar but he couldn't quite place. "Hey there," Rhonda said softly, crouching down to Marcus's eye level. "I couldn't help but notice you looking at something in that store window. Mind if I ask what caught your attention?" Marcus hesitated, studying this stranger's face. There was something kind in her eyes, something that made him feel safe despite his mother's warnings about talking to strangers. "It's a bike," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "For my sister." "Your sister must be pretty special for you to stand out here in the cold looking at bikes," Rhonda replied, her voice gentle but curious. Marcus nodded, fresh tears threatening to spill. "She is. She's the best sister in the whole world, but she got hurt real bad in a car accident. She can't walk anymore, but she doesn't know the bike won't work for her. She just keeps talking about how pretty it is, how she wants to ride it around our neighborhood when she gets better." The words hit Rhonda like a physical blow. She thought about her own sister, about family, about the dreams that sometimes get shattered, and the people we love who keep believing anyway. "How much do you have saved up?" Rhonda asked. Marcus pulled out his crumpled bills again, his hands shaking slightly from the cold. $47.32. But the bike cost $97, and the store's closed now anyway. Rhonda looked at this 8-year-old boy who had been working for months to buy his disabled sister a gift she couldn't even use, simply because it would make her happy. In that moment, something shifted inside her. For the first time in months, she felt purpose. "What's your name, kiddo?" "Marcus. Marcus Johnson." "Well, Marcus Johnson, I'm Rhonda. And I think your sister is incredibly lucky to have a brother like you." She stood up and walked toward the store, pulling out her phone. "But I have a feeling this story isn't over yet." Marcus watched in confusion as Rhonda made a phone call, speaking in hushed tones to someone on the other end. After a few minutes, she hung up and turned back to him with a smile that seemed to light up the entire street. "Marcus, do you trust me?" The boy nodded slowly. Good. Because I just called the store owner, and he's agreed to open up for us. But here's the thing. I have an idea that might be even better than that red bike. Are you willing to hear me out? 20 minutes later, Harold Thompson, the store owner, arrived with his keys jingling in the cold air. He was a man in his 60s who had been running the toy store for over 30 years, and when Ronda Rousey called asking for a favor, explaining Marcus's situation, he couldn't say no. "Evening, folks," Harold said, unlocking the front door. "Come on in out of that cold." Inside the warm store, surrounded by toys and holiday decorations, Ronda knelt down beside Marcus again. "Now, about that idea I mentioned. What if instead of just getting your sister that red bike, we got her something that would actually let her experience the joy of riding?" Marcus looked confused. "But she can't walk." "That's exactly my point," Ronda said, her eyes beginning to sparkle with excitement. "Harold, do you carry adaptive bikes? The kind designed for children with mobility challenges?" Harold's face lit up with understanding. "Actually, I do. I have one in the back that I special ordered for another customer, but they ended up moving out of state. It's been sitting there for 2 months." "Can we see it?" Ronda asked. Harold disappeared into the back room and returned pushing the most beautiful adaptive tricycle Marcus had ever seen. It was powder blue with silver accents, designed specifically for children who couldn't use traditional bikes. It had a supportive seat with safety straps, hand pedals instead of foot pedals, and it was absolutely perfect. "This," Harold said proudly, "is designed so that children with various mobility challenges can experience the freedom of riding. Your sister would be able to use this safely and independently." Marcus stared at the bike, his mouth hanging open. "But this must cost way more than the red bike." Harold checked the price tag. "This one retails for $350. Marcus's face fell. "I could never afford that." Ronda placed her hand on Marcus's shoulder. "What if I told you that your $47.32 was exactly enough?" "But that's impossible," Marcus protested. "Marcus," Ronda said, her voice growing serious. 3 months ago, I lost the biggest fight of my career. I lost in front of millions of people, and I thought my life was over. I've been driving around this city for hours tonight, wondering if I should just give up on everything." She paused, looking directly into Marcus's eyes. "But then I saw you standing outside that window crying because you couldn't afford to make your sister happy. And I realized something important. Real strength isn't about winning fights or being famous. Real strength is about what you're willing to do for the people you love." Marcus listened intently as Ronda continued. "You've been working for months, saving every penny. Not for yourself, but for your sister. That's the kind of strength I want to learn from. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to pay your $47.32 for this bike, and I'm going to cover the rest. But more than that, I want to meet your sister." "You want to meet Emma?" Marcus asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "I do, because I have a feeling she's going to teach me something about never giving up, something I really need to learn right now." Harold, who had been listening to this entire exchange, wiped his eyes with his sleeve. "You know what, folks? This bike has been sitting in my back room for 2 months. I think it's time it found its proper home. Marcus, your $47.32 is exactly enough. Consider the rest my Christmas gift to your family." Ronda looked at Harold with surprise and gratitude. "Harold, that's incredibly generous." "Sometimes," Harold said, "the universe puts us exactly where we need to be. I've been running this store for 30 years and I've never seen anything like what just happened here tonight." As they loaded the adaptive bike into Ronda's SUV, Marcus couldn't stop staring at her. "Are you famous or something? You seem familiar." Ronda laughed, the first genuine laugh she'd had in months. "I used to be. But tonight I think I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be." The drive to Marcus's house was filled with excited chatter as the boy told Ronda everything about Emma, about their mother who worked so hard, about their small apartment that always smelled like cinnamon because their mom burned candles to make it feel more like home. When they pulled up to the modest apartment complex, Marcus practically bounced out of the car. "Mom's going to freak out. She's always telling us that good things happen to good people, but I never really believed it until tonight." They carefully carried the bike up 2 flights of stairs to apartment 2B. Marcus knocked on the door in a special pattern, and they heard multiple locks being undone from the inside. The door opened to reveal a tired-looking woman in her early 30s, still wearing her work uniform from the diner. "Marcus, baby, where have you been? I was worried sick." "Mom, this is Rhonda. She helped me get Emma's Christmas present." Sarah Johnson looked from her son to the stranger standing in her hallway, then down at the beautiful adaptive bike between them. Her hand flew to her mouth. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Mrs. Johnson," Rhonda said gently, "your son has been saving money for months to buy his sister a Christmas present. When I met him tonight, he was crying because he couldn't afford it. But what he didn't realize is that his love for Emma is worth more than any amount of money." From inside the apartment, a small voice called out, "Marcus, is that you? Who's with you?" "It's Emma," Marcus said excitedly. "Mom, can we bring the bike inside? I want to show her." Sarah stepped aside, still in shock, as they wheeled the adaptive bike into the small living room. Emma was sitting on the couch, a blanket covering her legs, her face lighting up when she saw her brother. "Marcus, you're home. I was watching for you by the window, but I must have fallen asleep." Then she noticed the bike and the stranger in her living room. "Oh my gosh, what is that beautiful bike?" Marcus knelt beside his sister's wheelchair, his eyes shining with tears of joy. "Emma, this is your Christmas present. It's a special bike made just for you so you can ride around the neighborhood just like you wanted." Emma stared at the bike, then at Marcus, then at Rhonda. "But Marcus, this must have cost so much money. How did you afford this?" "I saved up my allowance and did extra chores," Marcus said proudly. "And Rhonda helped me." Emma turned to look at Rhonda with curiosity. "Are you an angel?" Rhonda laughed, feeling her heart swell with an emotion she hadn't experienced in months. "No, sweetheart. I'm just someone who needed to remember what real strength looks like." "Can I try it?" Emma asked, her excitement barely contained. "Of course," Rhonda said. "But maybe we should wait until tomorrow when it's light outside. This bike is going to take you on so many adventures." As they talked and Emma examined every detail of her new bike, Sarah pulled Rhonda aside into the kitchen. "I don't know who you are," Sarah said quietly, "but what you did tonight, I can never repay you for that. Mrs. Johnson, you don't understand. Your children saved me tonight, not the other way around." Sarah looked confused. "I don't follow." Rhonda took a deep breath. "I'm a fighter. Or I was. I lost a big match a few months ago, and I've been feeling sorry for myself ever since. Tonight I was seriously considering giving up on everything. But then I saw Marcus outside that store, crying because he couldn't afford to make his sister happy." She paused, looking back toward the living room where Marcus was explaining all the bike's features to Emma. "Your son taught me something tonight about what real fighting looks like. It's not about winning in front of crowds. It's about getting up every day and doing whatever it takes for the people you love. Marcus has been fighting for Emma every single day, and he's never given up." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "These kids have been through so much. The accident, the medical bills, me working multiple jobs just to keep us afloat. But they never complain. They just take care of each other." "That's exactly what I mean," Rhonda said. "I thought I knew what strength was, but I was wrong. Real strength is what your family shows every single day." They returned to the living room where Emma was still marveling at her bike, running her small hands over the smooth handlebars and ringing the little bell attached to the front. "Rhonda," Emma said suddenly, "Marcus told me you're a fighter. What kind of fighting do you do?" "Well," Rhonda said, sitting down on the couch beside Emma's wheelchair, "I used to fight in a sport called mixed martial arts, but lately, I haven't been very good at it." "That's okay," Emma said matter-of-factly. "I used to be good at running and dancing, but I'm not good at that anymore either. But you know what I learned?" "What's that, sweetheart?" "Sometimes, when you can't do the thing you used to do, you find out you're good at something even better." The simple wisdom of this 8-year-old girl hit Rhonda like a revelation. "What did you find out you were good at?" "Helping Marcus with his homework, making Mom laugh when she's tired, and being the best cheerleader for everyone in my family." "Maybe you just haven't found your new thing yet." Rhonda felt tears streaming down her face. "Emma, you might be the smartest person I've ever met." "I know," Emma said with a giggle. "That's what Marcus always tells me." As the evening wound down, Ronda prepared to leave, but not before exchanging phone numbers with Sarah and promising to return the next day to watch Emma take her first ride on the adaptive bike. "Ronda," Marcus said as she headed toward the door, "thank you for helping me tonight, but can I ask you something?" "Of course. You said you lost a big fight and you were thinking about giving up, but you helped us tonight instead of giving up. Doesn't that mean you actually won?" Ronda knelt down and hugged Marcus tightly. "You know what, buddy? I think you're absolutely right." The next morning, Ronda arrived at the apartment complex with coffee for Sarah and donuts for the kids. The December sun was shining brightly, and the air was crisp but not too cold for Emma's first bike ride. They made their way to the small park across the street, where Ronda carefully helped Emma transfer from her wheelchair to the adaptive bike. The moment Emma's hands gripped the handlebars and she began to pedal with her hands, her face transformed with pure joy. "I'm riding!" she shouted, her laughter echoing across the park. "Marcus, look, I'm actually riding!" Marcus ran alongside the bike, cheering and laughing as his sister experienced the freedom she had dreamed about for months. Sarah stood beside Ronda, both women crying happy tears as they watched the children. "You know," Ronda said to Sarah, "I came here thinking I was doing something nice for your family. But watching Emma ride that bike, seeing how happy Marcus is, I realize your kids have given me something I lost." "What's that?" Sarah asked. "Hope. Purpose. A reason to keep fighting." As Emma rode circles around the park, getting more confident with each lap, she called out to Ronda. "Hey Ronda, want a race?" "You're on," Ronda called back, jogging alongside the bike as Emma pedaled as fast as she could, both of them laughing until their sides hurt. After an hour of riding, they returned to the apartment for lunch. As they sat around the small kitchen table eating sandwiches, Emma made an announcement. "I've decided something," she said seriously. "Ronda, you said you lost a fight and you were sad about it, but I think you should try fighting again." "Oh yeah?" Ronda asked, amused. "Why's that?" "Because you're really good at helping people, and that's what fighters should do. They should help people and protect people and make people happy, like you did for us." Marcus nodded enthusiastically. "Emma's right. You're like a superhero fighter." "But what if I lose again?" Ronda asked, genuinely curious about their perspective. "Then you get back up and try again," Emma said simply. "That's what I had to do when I was learning to use my wheelchair. I fell out of it like 100 times, but I kept trying until I got good at it." "And," Marcus added, "even if you lose fights, you'll still be good at the most important kind of fighting." "What kind is that?" Ronda asked. "Fighting for people you care about," Marcus said. "Like how you fought for us last night." That afternoon, as Ronda prepared to leave, she made a decision that would change the trajectory of her life. "Sarah," she said, "I want to ask you something, and please feel free to say no." "What is it?" "I'd like to help with Emma's medical expenses, and I'd like to set up a fund for Marcus's education, but more than that, I'd like to be part of your family's life, if you'll let me." Sarah stared at her in shock. "Ronda, you've already done so much. You don't understand. Your children saved my life last night. The least I can do is try to make theirs a little easier. But why would you want to do all that?" Ronda looked over at Emma and Marcus, who were playing a board game on the living room floor. Emma's new bike parked proudly beside the couch. "Because for the first time in months, I remember who I want to be. And it's not just a fighter in a ring. It's someone who fights for people like your family every single day." 6 months later, Ronda stood in the corner of a different kind of ring. She had returned to fighting, but with a new perspective and a new purpose. Every fight was dedicated to the adaptive sports program she had started, funded by her comeback winnings and designed to provide equipment and opportunities for children with disabilities. In the front row of the arena sat Sarah, Marcus, and Emma, wearing matching t-shirts that read, "Team Ronda." Emma's adaptive bike was decorated with ribbons and parked beside her wheelchair, and Marcus held a sign that said, "Our Champion." As Ronda's name was announced and she walked toward the center of the ring, she looked up at her adopted family and smiled. Win or lose, she had already found her greatest victory. The fight was intense, going the full 5 rounds, but Ronda fought with a heart full of purpose. When the final bell rang and the judges declared her the winner, the first thing she did was point to the 3 people in the front row who had taught her what real strength looked like. After the fight, As reporters crowded around asking about her comeback, Ronda kept her answers simple. "I learned that being a champion isn't about how many fights you win," she said, looking directly at Marcus and Emma. "It's about how many people you're willing to fight for." Later that night, back at the Johnson apartment, they celebrated with pizza and ice cream. Emma had insisted on riding her bike around the apartment complex earlier, showing off for all the neighbors who had come to know and love Ronda over the past 6 months. "Ronda," Emma said as they sat on the couch together, "I'm proud of you for winning your fight tonight." "Thank you, sweetheart. But you know what I'm most proud of?" "What?" "I'm proud that I didn't give up that night when I met you and Marcus. Because if I had given up, I would have missed out on having the best family in the world." Marcus, who was sitting on the floor organizing his baseball cards, a hobby Ronda had introduced him to, looked up with a grin. "Does this mean you're stuck with us forever?" "If you'll have me," Ronda replied. "Forever and ever," Emma said, snuggling closer to Ronda on the couch. As the evening wound down and the children got ready for bed, Sarah pulled Ronda aside one more time. "I still can't believe how much our lives have changed," Sarah said. "A year ago, I was working 3 jobs and barely keeping my head above water. Now Emma has her bike. Marcus is in advanced classes at school and I only have to work 1 job because of your help. Sarah, you were already doing an amazing job with these kids. I just helped make it a little easier." "No," Sarah said firmly. "You did more than that. You showed my children that there are good people in the world who will fight for them. You gave them hope." "They gave me hope first," Ronda replied. "That night outside the toy store, I was ready to give up on everything. But Marcus taught me that real fighting isn't about winning or losing, it's about never giving up on the people you love." As Ronda drove home that night, she thought about the journey that had brought her to this moment. The devastating loss that had felt like the end of the world had actually been the beginning of something much more important. She thought about Emma's wisdom, about finding new things you're good at when you can't do what you used to do. She thought about Marcus's definition of real fighting. And she thought about Sarah's strength in raising 2 incredible children under impossible circumstances. Most of all, she thought about how a little boy's tears outside a toy store had led her to discover that the greatest victories happen not in arenas filled with cheering crowds, but in quiet moments when you choose to fight for someone else's happiness. The next morning, Ronda woke up to a text message from Marcus. "Good morning, Ronda. Emma wants to know if you can come to her school today. She's giving a presentation about adaptive sports and she wants you to be there." Ronda smiled as she typed back, "Wouldn't miss it for the world." As she got ready for the day, Ronda looked at herself in the mirror and saw someone she hadn't seen in a long time. Not just a fighter, not just a champion, but someone who had learned that the most important battles are fought not for glory but for love. And in that reflection, she saw the woman that a crying 8-year-old boy and his wise little sister had helped her become. A woman who understood that sometimes the greatest victories come from the moments when you choose to stop and help someone else, even when you think you have nothing left to give. The story of that December night had spread far beyond Sacramento. News outlets had picked up the story of the former champion who found her way back to fighting through helping a family in need. But for Ronda, Marcus, Emma, and Sarah, the real story wasn't about fame or comebacks. It was about how love can transform a moment of despair into a lifetime of purpose, and how sometimes the people who save us are the ones we think we're saving. Hey, if this story touched your heart the way it touched mine, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that subscribe button because we're building a community of people who believe in the power of kindness and second chances. Drop a comment below and tell me about a time when someone unexpected changed your life, or when you had the chance to be that person for someone else. And don't forget to smash that notification bell and hit the hype button to help this channel grow, because every subscriber helps us share more stories that remind us what really matters in this world. Your support means everything, and together, we can spread these messages of hope to people who need them most. Thank you for being part of this incredible community. That presentation at Emma's school became a turning point not just for the Johnson family, but for an entire community that was about to witness something extraordinary. Emma wheeled herself to the front of her 3rd grade classroom, her confidence radiating as she began to speak about adaptive sports. Ronda sat in the back, watching with pride as this 8-year-old girl who had once been told she'd never ride a bike again, explained to her classmates how determination and the right equipment could overcome any obstacle. "My bike isn't like your bikes," Emma told her classmates, "but it's perfect for me. And my friend Rhonda taught me that being different doesn't mean being less than. It means being special in your own way." After the presentation, something unexpected happened. Tommy Martinez, a quiet boy who sat in the back corner of the classroom, raised his hand tentatively. "Emma," he said softly, "my little brother Carlos has something called cerebral palsy. He can't walk either, but he loves watching kids ride bikes in our neighborhood. Do you think there might be a bike for him too?" The teacher, Mrs. Henderson, looked surprised. In 3 years of having Tommy in her class, she had rarely heard him speak up about anything, let alone his family situation. Emma's face lit up immediately. "Rhonda, can we help Carlos too?" That simple question would spark something that none of them could have anticipated. Over the next few weeks, word spread throughout the school and the surrounding community about Emma's adaptive bike and the woman who had helped make it possible. Parents began reaching out, sharing stories of their own children with disabilities who had been watching from the sidelines, dreaming of experiences they thought were impossible. Rhonda found herself invited to more and more homes, meeting families who were struggling with challenges similar to what the Johnsons had faced. There was Maria Santos, whose daughter Sophia had lost her leg in a childhood cancer battle, but still dreamed of playing soccer. There was David Kim, whose son Alex had autism and found peace in repetitive motions but had never had access to appropriate sports equipment. Each family's story added another layer to Rhonda's understanding of what real fighting meant. These weren't battles fought in rings or cages. These were daily battles fought by parents who worked multiple jobs to afford medical equipment, by children who faced stares and whispers but never stopped dreaming, by siblings who learned compassion and strength at ages when most kids only worried about homework and video games. 3 months after Emma's school presentation, Rhonda made an announcement that would change everything. She was standing in the community center gymnasium, surrounded by dozens of families who had become part of what everyone was now calling Team Emma. Marcus stood beside her, holding a microphone that was almost as big as he was, while Emma sat in her wheelchair at the front of the crowd, her adaptive bike decorated with streamers for the occasion. "6 months ago," Rhonda began, "I thought my fighting career was over. I thought I had lost everything that mattered to me. But this community, this family, taught me that I was looking at everything wrong." She gestured toward Marcus and Emma. "These 2 kids showed me that the most important fights aren't the ones you win in front of thousands of people. They're the ones you fight every single day for the people you love." The crowd murmured in agreement, parents nodding as they held their children close. "So today, I'm announcing the launch of the Emma Johnson Foundation for Adaptive Sports." The crowd erupted in cheers as Emma's face turned bright red with embarrassment and pride. "This foundation will provide adaptive sports equipment, training, and opportunities for children with disabilities throughout California, and eventually, across the country." But Rhonda wasn't finished. "And I'm also announcing that 50% of all my future fight earnings will go directly to this foundation. Because every time I step into that ring now, I'm not just fighting for myself. I'm fighting for Sophia, who wants to play soccer. I'm fighting for Alex, who finds peace in swimming. I'm fighting for Carlos, who dreams of riding a bike like his big brother." She paused, looking directly at Marcus and Emma. "And I'm fighting for Marcus and Emma, who taught me that real champions are the ones who never give up on making other people's dreams come true." The applause was deafening, but what happened next was even more powerful. One by one, families began standing up and sharing their own stories, their own dreams, their own commitments to help other families facing similar challenges. Mrs. Santos announced that her restaurant would donate meals for all foundation events. Mr. Kim, who worked in tech, offered to build and maintain the foundation's website for free. Harold Thompson, the toy store owner, committed to providing adaptive equipment at cost. But perhaps the most moving moment came when Tommy Martinez, the quiet boy from Emma's class, stood up with his parents and his little brother Carlos, who was in a wheelchair similar to Emma's. "Emma," Tommy said, his voice shaking but determined, "Carlos and I want to be the first kids to get bikes from your foundation, and we want to help other kids too, because you taught us that helping people is the most important thing we can do." Carlos, who was only 5 years old and had limited speech due to his condition, managed to say clearly, "Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Rhonda." There wasn't a dry eye in the gymnasium. Over the following months, the Emma Johnson Foundation grew beyond anything Rhonda had imagined. What started as a simple act of kindness outside a toy store had become a movement that was changing lives across the state. Emma became the foundation's youngest spokesperson, traveling to schools and community centers to share her story and encourage other children with disabilities to pursue their dreams. Marcus, meanwhile, had discovered a talent for organizing events and had become the foundation's unofficial junior coordinator, managing volunteer schedules with the efficiency of someone twice his age. Sarah had been able to quit her second and third jobs, taking a position as the foundation's family liaison coordinator. Her experience as a single mother navigating the challenges of raising a child with disabilities made her uniquely qualified to help other families access resources and support. But the real magic happened in the individual moments, the quiet victories that reminded everyone why they were doing this work. There was the day Sofia Santos scored her first goal using her new adaptive prosthetic, her teammates cheering as loudly as if they had won the World Cup. There was the afternoon Alex Kim completed his first full lap in the adaptive swimming program, his father crying tears of joy as he watched his son find peace in the water. And there was the morning Carlos Martinez took his first ride on his new adaptive bike, with Tommy running alongside him and Emma cheering from her own bike, all three children laughing with the pure joy of friendship and shared adventure. Each success story reinforced what Rhonda had learned that December night outside the toy store, that real strength isn't about individual achievement, but about lifting others up and helping them achieve things they never thought possible. The foundation's first major fundraising event was scheduled for the 1-year anniversary of the night Rhonda met Marcus and Emma. It would be held at the Sacramento Community Arena, the same venue where Rhonda had won her comeback fight 6 months earlier. But this event would be different. Instead of one person fighting in a ring, it would showcase dozens of children with disabilities participating in adaptive sports demonstrations, showing the community what was possible when barriers were removed and dreams were supported. Emma had been chosen to give the opening speech, a responsibility she had accepted with the same determination she brought to everything else in her life. A year ago, Emma's speech began. "I thought my life was over because I couldn't walk anymore. I thought I would never be able to do the things other kids could do. But then my brother Marcus taught me that love is stronger than any disability, and Rhonda taught me that when one dream ends, it just means it's time to dream bigger." She paused, looking out at the crowd of nearly 3,000 people who had come to support the foundation. "Today, I want every kid here to know that being different doesn't mean being less. It means being special. And when we work together, when we help each other, there's nothing we can't do." The arena erupted in applause, but Emma wasn't finished. "So tonight we're not just raising money for adaptive sports equipment. We're raising hope. We're raising dreams. And we're proving that the strongest people in the world aren't the ones who never fall down. They're the ones who get back up and help someone else get back up too." As Emma finished her speech and the adaptive sports demonstrations began, Rhonda stood in the wings watching everything unfold. Marcus appeared beside her, now 9 years old and several inches taller than he had been that December night. "Rhonda," he said, "can I ask you something?" "Of course, buddy. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't stopped that night? If you had just driven past the toy store?" Rhonda considered the question seriously. "I think about it sometimes. But then I realize that maybe it wasn't really a choice. Maybe some things are just meant to happen." "Like what?" "Like you and Emma being exactly the teachers I needed, exactly when I needed them most." Marcus smiled. "Mom says that sometimes angels come disguised as regular people, and you don't know they're angels until after they've helped you. Your mom is a very wise woman." "Yeah, but I think she's wrong about one thing." "What's that?" "I don't think you were disguised as a regular person that night. I think you were disguised as someone who needed help, but you were really an angel who came to help us." As the evening continued and Rhonda watched dozens of children with disabilities showcase their abilities rather than their limitations, she realized that Marcus might be right. Maybe they had all been angels for each other, appearing at exactly the right moment to provide exactly what was needed. The foundation raised over $2 million that night, enough to provide adaptive equipment for hundreds of children across California. But more importantly, it had created a community of families who understood that strength comes not from what you can do alone, but from what you can accomplish when you refuse to let anyone face their challenges in isolation. As the event wound down and families began to head home, Emma wheeled her chair over to where Rhonda was standing. "Rhonda," she said, "I have something for you." She handed Rhonda a small wrapped package. Inside was a photo from that first day in the park when Emma had taken her inaugural ride on the adaptive bike. In the picture, Emma was pedaling with pure joy on her face while Marcus ran alongside her, and Rhonda jogged behind them, all three of them laughing. On the back of the photo, Emma had written in her careful 8-year-old handwriting, "To Rhonda, who taught me that the best way to heal a broken heart is to help fix someone else's. Love, Emma." Rhonda felt tears streaming down her face as she hugged Emma tightly. "Thank you, sweetheart. This is the most beautiful gift anyone has ever given me." "It's not just from me," Emma said. "It's from all of us, because you didn't just help our family that night. You helped us learn how to help other families too." As Rhonda drove home that night, she thought about the journey that had brought her to this moment. A year ago, she had been a broken fighter who thought her life was over. Tonight, she was surrounded by a family she had chosen and who had chosen her, leading a movement that was changing lives across the state. The little boy who had cried outside a toy store had taught her that real fighting meant never giving up on the people you love. His sister had taught her that when one dream ends, it's time to dream bigger. And their mother had taught her that sometimes the greatest victories come from the moments when you choose to stop and help someone else, even when you think you have nothing left to give. But perhaps the most important lesson had come from the community that had grown around them. That strength multiplies when it's shared, that hope spreads when it's nurtured, and that love has the power to transform not just individual lives, but entire communities. As Rhonda pulled into her driveway, she received a text message from Marcus. "Good night, Rhonda. Thanks for being the best big sister ever." She smiled as she typed back, "Thank you for teaching me what real strength looks like. Sweet dreams, little brother." And as she fell asleep that night, Rhonda knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new families to help, new dreams to support. But she also knew that she would never again face those challenges alone, because she had learned the most important lesson of all, that the strongest people in the world are the ones who understand that true victory comes not from standing alone at the top, but from reaching down and pulling others up with you. The story that had begun with tears outside a toy store had become a testament to the power of compassion, the strength of community, and the truth that sometimes the people who save us are the ones we think we're saving. And in that truth, Rhonda had found not just her purpose, but her home. If this story has inspired you to look for ways to make a difference in your community, I want to hear about it. Hit that subscribe button right now and join our family of people who believe that small acts of kindness can change the world. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that their struggles don't define them. Their response to those struggles does. Comment below and tell me about a time when someone unexpected became your hero, or when you had the chance to be that hero for someone else. And please hit that notification bell and smash the hype button, because every single one of you helps us reach more people who need to hear these stories of hope and resilience. Together, we're not just watching stories, we're creating a movement of compassion that reaches far beyond this screen. Thank you for being part of something bigger than ourselves.